Hi all, welcome to this smart class about reports in Odoo. My name is Chris. I'm a consultant here, more specifically in the expertise tech team. Today I'll be your host and guide you through how we can manage reports the best way. Okay. So what is a report, you ask? Well, it's actually a name that we at Odoo have given our documents. So these can be PDF documents, HTML, or text files for when you need to print with a Zebra printer. Whether it's sending, downloading sales orders, invoices, or even adding delivery slips to your warehouse transfers, all these documents are important to correctly convey information from your Odoo database to your client and giving the correct company image. You can either change existing reports or you can create completely new ones from scratch thanks to Studio. So, let's dive into the subject at hand. Reports. We'll rather check out the functional aspect of managing reports with Studio rather than the design. And to be honest, my artistic skills are not that great, so I'd let you do that, or rather a developer. Okay. Now let's check what actually is behind the report, because we use QWeb, okay, in order to create our reports. So in order for me to show this, I'm going to be in debug. How do I see that I'm in debug? Well, first of all, here at the top, I can see that I have a little bug. If you are not, just go to your settings, scroll all the way down, and then activate the developer mode. Now, let's go into our sales module. In our sales module, we actually can access the reports that exists in standard for this module. How? Well, we'll just go into Studio, and then here you have a menu which is called Reports, and we'll click into it. So you can see that standard Odoo already offers several reports. For example, the proforma invoice or the quotation/order. Now, let's dive into our quotation/order. So here we have a report in Studio. Okay, but before I dig into actually changing a report, I first want to show you how a report is built. And for that, you can go into the Report tab and then down to the button XML. So this will actually open the QWeb that is behind the report. Okay, so here when I go to my report sale order document, you have all this QWeb which actually gives you, which actually builds this report that we have in front of us. Okay, now what happens with Studio is that when we add a field, we are actually adding a new layer to this report. Okay, that's what we actually call an inherited view. So just for your information, our reports are mostly built upon views. And then every time we do a change, well, we do that with an inherited view, which comes as an extra layer to the report that already exists in standard. So let me show you. I will close this, and then I will just add, for example, a little text block. And I'll add it down here. Okay. When I go back to my XML here, you'll see that something has happened. Odoo has automatically created a new inherited view in QWeb. Sorry, let me just click this again. There we go. So Odoo has automatically created a new inherited view, which is called Odoo Studio, and then it takes the name of the actual report we are working on. Okay. I can also access this information when I close Studio, and I go back to my dashboard and I go into my views. So you'll see if I go, for example, and search on my report_sale order. Well, I have here my sale order document, which is exactly the same XML we just saw prior to what I'm showing you now. Okay, so in Studio. Now let me click into this. So this code here is exactly the same. However, I now have an inherited view, which is my Studio layer. Okay, so when I click into this, well, you see it's exactly the same thing that we saw just earlier. What do we actually see here? Well, first of all, we have an XPath. What is an XPath? An XPath is actually, we're telling the system to go to, well, here in this case, the T, and then div, and then the div number 6, and then position something after that. Okay. So what does that actually mean? When I go back to my architecture here, well, I have a first T tag here, and then it's going into the second T tag, and then here we're actually going into a div, and then again into the sixth div. Okay, and that's actually how we are telling the system with this new layer how where we want to position new information. So that's really important to understand that the XPath can do this for us, and like as such we can create inherited views, so an extra layer, without actually going into the QWeb or into the original view of our report. Okay. So what is QWeb actually? For this I have a little slideshow for you. So QWeb is actually a mix of HTML, CSS, XML, and Python. Okay. We have different things that we can do with QWeb. For example, we can add HTML tags, or we can add styling, or we can even add expressions such as if conditions. I'll go through all of them right here. So first of all, we have a list of containers or a list of tags. Okay. So for example, we can use the div tag in order to better structure our information within our report. We also can use a span, for example, in order to create a block. All right. Then there's the T tag, which is really important for us because it's actually a neutral tag in order to introduce information such as styling or call upon methods, which we'll see just afterwards. By methods, I mean expressions, of course. The most important is, of course, the table tag. Well, this will allow you to create tables with information from the model you are currently working on. Okay, so if I'm on a sales order model, well, then I'll be able to create tables with information from my sale order model. Okay, or other many one-to-many fields. In the T head, we'll of course add the table headers, and then in the T body we can add the lines we need, so the information we need. How does that look like? So this is a data table. As you can see here, we have our T head where we want our product and the quantity of our product. And then just below we are defining the T body. In the T body, well, I'm actually fetching information, as I just said, from my product. In this case, we are on a product move. Okay. So, as you can see, we can create data tables really easy. Behind that, there's let's say, there's code, of course. There's data. We can change this, but actually Studio will help you with this. Okay. So we can actually create data tables easily via drag and drop without even having to consider the code behind it. But it's better to know the code so that you understand how a data table is built. Okay. So next we have our styles. Okay. So these style tags can either be used internally, so such as using tags as strong. So and then we can use this within a tag. Okay. Or we can do it externally by adding a predefined CSS class. Okay. The CSS classes are defined in Odoo standards. Maybe if you know the CSS code very well, then you can also go and fetch these CSS classes when you're creating your reports. Okay. And then we can also add logic to our reports, and this is by using expressions. Okay. I'm going through this quite quickly, but anyways, you will have the slides to these different expressions, style tags, or even XML, HTML tags. Okay, so don't worry about it now. It's just to give you a quick introduction on how to use this. Okay, so in a T tag, what we can do, well, we can define a condition. Okay, so in order to show specific fields, or rather parts of my report, well, I can show them only if certain conditions are met. Okay. Here, for example, I have my client order reference. Okay. So if my client has their own reference, well, then we can add it on our sales order, and only if, and that's why we have the div and T if, only if a reference exists, will this field also be shown on our report. Okay. Because it doesn't make sense to show information that isn't really there on our reports, at least. Okay. By using the T fields, again, we're fetching information, and we are actually going on the record we are currently on and fetching the client order reference on the document. Okay. And next we have the for each function. Okay. So the for each will actually create a loop for a table in order to display all the lines in that table. Okay, so what you'll see from this table is that it is automatically filled in with all the product moves of the document or of the record we are currently on. Okay. The TAs is also important because here we are defining an item set, and in this case we are defining the product moves in that item set. Okay. Again, luckily for us, creating a table can easily be done via drag and drop, and I'll show you this in our next video. Okay, so stay tuned. We'll check out a use case in order for you to fully understand how to use reports and how to use QWeb.